So you are a corporate employee, but you are also a whole business boss. Sometimes that employee brain and that business brain can clash, especially when you find yourself in certain situations at work. Today, I'm going to give you some tips so that by the end of this video, you will be better armed to make the two work together for your benefit. So being an employee and a business owner sometimes works at cross purposes. Your brain knows you're a business boss and doesn't always understand how you find yourself in some of the things that you find yourself in as an employee. So one of the first things that you really have to do is make sure that you have set your boundaries and make them clear. There might be concerns that will come up around your work. It might impact on your values. It might impact on your time. Make sure that you raise those concerns. One of the things that you would be aware of already is knowing that people who work with you will be looking at what you're doing and they could feed it back to management. What does that look like? Sometimes that looks like, oh, Rachel has time to do things outside work, which probably means that we need to look a bit more closely at what she's doing in work. Maybe she can even do with some more work. Make sure you are watching what's coming your way task-wise, because people will pile things on you just for the sake of it if they think they can, because there is this wild notion that employers think they own you. So be realistic about what you can handle so that you avoid the burnout and have those conversations when you need to. And on the topic of conversations, number 2, be very clear and concise in your messages. Whatever your message is, just try to be as clear and succinct as possible. That doesn't only help with your corporate job, but it also helps with transparency with your clients. That helps build trusting relationships. And on the topic of being clear and concise, make sure you have a paper trail. I mean, we're going paperless, right? So make sure you have an email trail. If you're having a conversation with someone, make sure that you follow it up with as per our conversation, because you never know what can happen. There's a phrase that sometimes we use in work that's called cover your back. And sometimes I don't like it because you just think, why would I have to cover my back? But sometimes you have to, based on point number 1 with what you're capable of doing and what you're able to manage. And it makes me think of a story one time years ago when I was an officer and I was about to start the training to be qualified. And I remember a manager sitting me down and saying, when you are going into your supervision sessions, ensure that you take your own notes and ensure that you go in with your own agenda. And I thought, oh, okay, that's a good bit of advice. But I really couldn't see where that advice was going because I thought, okay, make sure I take my own notes sounds a bit ominous. However, it was probably about a year after that I found myself in a supervision session and I was being told that I hadn't done something. And I sat there like, no, that's not how this went. The cogs in my brain were going like, this doesn't sound right. And the manager at the time was saying, you were meant to do blah, 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 and you haven't done this X, Y, Z. And I thought, that's not how this was meant to go. And I said, actually, weren't you supposed to do this and then come back to me so that I could note that's not what happened? Are you telling me that you haven't done it? And if I hadn't done what that previous manager had told me, I would have been in the right and then. And I sat there and I had my notebook on my lap and I said, hold on a minute. I said, I'm pretty sure I wrote this down. And I started flicking through the pages and I heard him start to stutter. And as I flicked through the pages, I came to the notes that I'd written and I said, actually, that's not what happened. And I started reading what I had written. The action point was he was supposed to do whatever it was he had to do and come back to me with it so then I could take that on and do my part. And then he said, oh, it's okay. And I said, no, let me read it out. And it was at that point I realized how important notes and a paper trail was. I didn't follow it up then with an email, but I had my notes. So make sure you have your paper trail, make sure you have an email trail, make sure you take notes, because I cannot tell you how many times I've sat in a meeting where the action point for today followed on from a previous action point that was totally different. And what will come up is you haven't done what you're supposed to do. So make sure that in your communication, in the two-way communication, it is very clear and concise and you are managing your own notes and your own paper trail. And as I said, that crosses over into your business life. So number 3 is looking at how you not just have a work-life balance, but a work-life integration where you can. So if there are ways that your work and your business can integrate, that helps because it avoids that separation that you have to have in your brain. I must say that I was quite lucky. So the fact that I trained and became a certified coach, and I also work with people, meant that it's kind of like a whole synchronicity going on for me, which I was really lucky in, because the skills that I learned as a coach and then the skills and experience that I got from working in the field that I do meant that they kind of cross-pollinate each other. So whereas I was training as a coach, I could also use those skills with the people that I was managing. So if there's any point where there is a crossover in what you do in your business life and your work, see how you can make that flow together, because what that does is that it increases and helps hone your skills. And yes, we can't forget the work-life balance. You must make sure that you find time for self-care and not neglect your own well-being. And number 4, practice your assertiveness. And this is one that will definitely help you in business as well. But ensure that when you are in your corporate space, you are advocating for yourself. No one will do it for you. And you also have to realize that there's many times where, because you do have a business outside, they might not always want to support you because they may not have the same vision you have, and they're not quite sure why you're doing it. And you don't always get the support because they just think, oh, well, you know, you're not too invested here. And they don't realize that you are putting in sometimes a lot more than other people because you don't want to drop the ball at work. So make sure that your voice is being heard and you are advocating for yourself. And in that advocating, there might be things, as I said before, things that might not fit with your values. There may be tasks that are being put upon you that you don't need to be handling. Make sure that you address those issues promptly. Promptly, yes, but not too rash, because there are times when you have to kind of sit back and evaluate what's actually happening here. What are the implications for this being put on me? What are the implications for the organization? And you might have to put together a plan of action of how you're going to address certain things. So don't let things slide, but also deal with them in a prompt, efficient manner. And that way you protect your psychological health. You're not allowing things to linger, because can you imagine, and we already know, there are things that might happen at work and it's stressful enough there, and we take that home, and then it affects the time and energy and focus that we need to be putting into our businesses. So all of that comes into some of the conversations that we have to have, and it means that there are times that we are going to have difficult conversations with people. And if you need some help with that, I've got a resource for you. I've put together the goal getter generator, and that can be used for any type of goal or task. So if you have to have a conversation with someone, think about all of the things that you have to do. You have to outline what it is you want from this conversation. What is your desired result? Who do you need with you? What are the points that you might have to make? What defenses may they come up with? So what will you have to combat? How realistic is your ask? And is what you're asking for achievable? And you may have to formulate how you address it. So make use of the goal getter generator. It is in the link below, and you can download that for free. You can either print it off and use it, or you can fill it in on its PDF version. So I'm hoping that those tips were helpful for you, because it is not easy balancing the two. Sometimes you find yourself in conversations, and as I said at the beginning, you got to know when to own it, you got to know when to firm it. Sometimes you just got to know, okay, this is not the time, or this is when I stand and I assert myself. It will help you to command respect. It will help you to articulate your thoughts and intentions, and it helps ensure that you remain an authority in whichever of those fields you find yourself. What it also does is help you stay focus, because I'm not quite sure where you're going with your business, whether or not it's to replace your 9 to 5 or you just want to have it running alongside, but they both have its place. And what you don't want to do is have corporate overshadow what you're doing in your business, which is so important for you. So thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to download the goal getter generator to help you along your way, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.